Hello, and welcome to another edition of In Between the Pages with James Lott Jr. I'm James Lott Jr. Now, this person, okay, I'm going to read what he does and has done. And here's just a few things he does: actor, comedian, lecturer, director, producer, radio show host, podcast host. I mean, all these things he's been doing for years. And he's an author of a book called Shut Up, I'm Talking, coming out in Hollywood and making it to the middle. I love that title. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I've been following him for a long time, so I'm very excited to have him on my show, Mr. Jason Stuart. Hi, Jason.
Thank you so much, James. I so appreciate you wanting to interview me. I really do.
Oh, you're welcome. So I'm going to start out with something. There's two things I want to start out with. I'm going to start with this one thing first to make sure I am correct. Because I think I saw this on YouTube, and I was like, wait a minute. You and Martin Lawrence went against each other on Star Search back in the 80s?
Yes, 1985-86 season.
I saw it. I was like, what? You and Martin Lawrence? And you only lost by like a quarter of a point or something. Like,
right, and look, and our careers have gone parallel. So. He's in the biggest movie in the world, and I'm in my home doing a TikTok with my mother.
Okay, so a lot of I remember watching Star Search back in the day when it was on, and a lot of folks came from Star Search. Obviously, I mean, like Destiny's Child was on there when they were Flight Time, and
Rosie O'Donnell, Sam Harris.
Exactly, Sam Harris. Yeah, so it's kind of funny. So I mean, and your set was really funny. Actually, it was really funny, and the hair.
Really, do you think I was so nervous? And I look at that guy and I think, oh my God, my voice is so high and I'm talking so fast. You know, they only gave you a minute and a half.
It was so quick.
It was like insane. And it was so, I remember at one point during my first set, the one that I won, I remember for like a split second forgetting my joke. And then I won that night. We all went out, my manager and all these people went out for Chinese food. And I remember thinking, the minute they watch this, they're going to see how terrible I am. I'm never going to work again. You know, because in those days you couldn't see the show until like 6 months later when it was on TV. And I was just devastated. And I won that night. That's how insane that I was in those days. I was so out of my body and not present.
It was that is something. That is something. I mean, okay, so how'd you get into Star Search? Was it a newspaper ad? Was it a phone book?
You know what I remember at the time I had a manager and he knew someone who was a talent scout and he arranged it for me. And he just a great guy.
Yeah.
Just a great guy.
Now, how long had you been doing stand-up at that point, though? Like, was it
3 years?
3 years, yeah. You were doing stand-up already, and so you got to start. I think it was so fun. I was like, I saw it. I go, wait a minute, that's Martin Lawrence and him.
You know what? I think 2 years. I think 2.5 years, because I had done Merv Griffin in '86. Yeah, it was before. Well, you know, and I couldn't. No, I think Merv Griffin was the first thing I did. Yeah, I think, but I don't remember the order. It's so long ago. But around the same, I did done Merv Griffin. I had done a Star Search, and then some other shows.
Yeah, I mean back then, I mean it wasn't easy to get on TV, was it? Back then?
No,
yeah,
not easy at all.
I think
but the thing that was easier is they were more interested in funny people rather than people that had a look or a attitude about something that was cool and hip to them, you know, or they were a certain race. You know, or they were a certain thing that, you know, you had to be funny first. Yeah. And now it's about having one of each, or there's a different demographic. Some of the things that they do now are good, you know, like making it more, what I call more of a Benetton ad, but people, but then the idea of somebody being pretty or not pretty or having a certain kind of a look, you know, that seems to me that's for soap operas, you know, that's what you think. But, you know, times change.
They do. And I always say, as long as you stay in the lane long enough, you'll be the last one standing at some point. You keep.
Well, that's what people say about me. I just always stayed in my lane.
Well, I mean, when I'm reading your book and stuff, it's really interesting because you have you have had a long career as this character actor, as a stand-up comedian, and things, and you've done movies and you produced things, directed things. Is the base of all of your stuff just I want to work?
It's when I was very young and I was in school. I was, you know, during this pandemic, I live in an apartment complex, and my mother lives. There's a lot of fourplexes, and my mom lives downstairs, and I live one over and upstairs. So I see her a lot. And I was talking to her the other day, and I said, you know, when I was so young, I wanted a different kind of career. I wanted to be famous because when I was in school, we're talking about teens and early 20s, when I was a kid in school, I think I had such a hard time focusing on my schoolwork because I was so berated and beat up and followed home and everything because I was gay that it was very difficult for me to get an education. And I remember that I had done a play in school and at some of the park and recs community centers, and I got this feeling that I could be funny. And it felt so good and people liked me. And I remember thinking, there was one guy, his name was Meyer Levine, I think, at the Gardner Parks and Rec. And I'd done this play called Santa Claus for President. And I did the whole play like I was Lucy pregnant, because I'd seen her do that. It was so funny the way she'd get out of the chair. So I thought, oh, I'm fat. I'm wearing this big Santa, fat suit. And I did and I got so many laughs. And I thought, oh, and he came over, he said, you really want to do this? I said, yeah. And I was 14. And then I started doing that a lot. And then as I got older and taking more classes and realizing that whoever I was, they didn't want. They would tell me to my face. And a lot of the times it was quite devastating because I thought God had chose me. But I think I made it up in my mind. I made up this persona and who I was from things I'd seen on television or in movies and that I related to. And I created this persona in my mind of who I was going to be. And when that didn't work out, it was quite devastating. So I switched and I started realizing at the time, this was happening all simultaneously. And I fell in love with the work of being an actor and the craft of being a comedian. And I fell in love with that.
Yeah, and you've done both. I mean, like some people will go, I'll do one, maybe do the other, I'll do one. But you've kind of consistently done both.
I did. I tried my best. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's not easy.
I was touring quite a bit. I toured for 25 years as a headliner in mainstream comedy clubs. And that was really hard work and physically exhausting and mentally. And it's not the same for a straight boy who's got all these, there's no girl factor in it for you. And it's quite lonely.
One of the things about your book that I found very interesting, you have I think it's a chapter on one of your girlfriends, an actual girlfriend. I think her name was Amanda. I think.
Amanda, yes. There's two girls that I talk about.
But one of the stories I thought was very interesting to me because I related to it in the fact that, some of us start out with actual girlfriends. You have a girlfriend and there's a different time back then too. Like I actually remind the young kids today that sometimes that happened and they still have a strong impact on you. They still have a form on you. And she did. I know the two, but she did especially, didn't she?
Well, let me make it clear. At the time, I never, ever, ever, ever at all thought I was straight in my mind. But I never spoke the words out loud. And I, at times, didn't even know what it was that I was, for years, I wore my watch on my right hand, where most people wear it on their left. Am I correct?
Yes.
Because there was a noon aide in my grammar school that I used to talk to all the time, and he wore his watch on his right hand. And there was a beautiful black man, I'll never forget him, and I can't remember his name, and he was a football player in high school, and I just had, I was just like, I couldn't even talk. I don't think I ever even spoke to him. I was so attracted to him. There were all sorts of things like that, but they weren't, it wasn't about sex because I was so young at that time, those kind of thoughts. It was more about romance and wanting to be with them and companionship and closeness and that stuff until I had gotten to be, 15, 16.
Yeah. No, I want to bring to people understand that, just that, we grew up in the 70s and 80s and
very different times.
Very different time. And even though there was like sexual freedom, especially in the 70s, kind of, in some parts of the 80s, it was like that for gay people, not in the 80s.
Well, it was different because we really couldn't say it out loud. I had a whole experience in my head. I don't know about you. I never talked about it. So it was all inside my head. And I was, people always say, what's it like being in the closet? I said, well, you're standing on the shoes. You got hat boxes and shit. that could fall on you. There's a leather jacket in front of you. Every once in a while, someone opens a door, flashes a light in your face, takes something, pulls it out, and slams the door. And that's how you make all your decisions.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that, actually. That's really good. Yeah, that's what it is. That's literally what it is. Now, I want to, because this actually leads into what I want to talk about, especially because this is very important. You coming out publicly early in your career. Back when there was no Will and Grace, there was no Ellen, there was no, I think RuPaul was just starting kind of to make some noise. I think it's very important for people to understand, for you to do that early in your career back in the early to mid 90s was a big deal. To me, it was a very big deal.
It was a very big deal. It was frightening. And it was, I remember I had done a movie called Kindergarten Cop in 1990, and that's when it really started to happen. And I played the hairdresser to the villainess. And I remember I had this great scene with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carol Baker, and some other actors. And it was wonderfully to have gotten this part. Jackie Birch, Michael Chinich, and Billy DeMata sort of were all the casting directors that sort of helped me get that part. And I remember leaving the audition and thinking, I don't know, I don't think I was that great. And then people stood up for me and got me this part. And when I shot it, it was much longer. And when we actually did when the film was actually edited together, and I went to the cast, crew, and screening that Universal had done, I remember it was such a big deal. I mean, it was I'd never done a studio film that had such a big, I'd only done one studio film before with Martin Short and Annette O'Toole called Cross My Heart. I wasn't invited to anything.
Oh, wow.
This was so big. And I remember Ivan Reitman, who's the director for Ghostbusters, he walked by me and he said, "You're still in the film." I thought, okay, great. I didn't get cut.
Get cut, folks. People get cut all the time.
I wasn't smart enough to know that my part was cut to shreds, but I was still in the film. I thought that meant that I was in the film, and my part had not been done.
Yes.
And I remember going to see it, and I was devastated. I thought no one's going to bear. I barely had one line off camera, one line on camera, and that was it. And it was so small. And I remember thinking, God, this is terrible, And I remember thinking, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to talk like this. I'm going to pretend I'm somebody else, and I'm going to be a different person. In those days, we didn't have internet or anything. I really thought I was going to do that and pretend I was straight, because the idea of playing a role, as a hairdresser, it was a gay part, even though it didn't say gay hairdresser, it was just hairdresser.
Right.
And I remember thinking to myself, there's never going to be any parts for me. Even now, there are no parts for someone over 50 who's gay, and me. And if there is, it's in a movie with Melissa McCarthy, and then he gets nominated for an Oscar and he's straight. And though he did a brilliant job and deserved the nomination, I didn't even get to. You don't even get to compete.
Right.
Because the industry doesn't treat gay celebrity the same way they treat straight celebrity. It's not the same. So it's hard. There are some people that have gone past it. Neil Patrick Harris, gorgeous guy.
Matthew Bomer.
Matt Boomer. Matt Boomer? Boomer, yeah.
Yes, he made it through.
Nathan Lane, there's a couple that have really surpassed that. So things are changing, but not everybody gets to go. And I remember once we were doing a press release for something I was doing, and I said, this is to the publicist. I'm always involved in that because I have, I think that you have to be able to help them guide people, because a lot of people don't know, they haven't had your experience. I said, when you break, Jason Stuart, when you break the ground, do you get to walk on it? And I thought that's really important. I still feel that way.
Well, no, like I said, I've seen you for years. I've seen you and stuff. I knew who you were, and I knew you from stand up too. But I knew you were, and I just always admire the fact that you showed up and stuff. I mean, it's like it's all about representation. I mean, like we have to see something that looks something like us, or is part of our tribe, so to speak, in things. So I mean, you did do that. So I just want you to know that you did.
Well, inside baseball, when you get in there, and there's two kinds of people in show business. They're the ones that put you on a pedestal and think you're terrific and are kind and think, and so forth. And then there's the kinds that resent you too. and I'm being very candid, there are people that resented me walking into the room and asking to compete. They were, you know, it's that simple. They thought, why is he here? Why does he, you know, he's not right for this. And I remember when I got the audition for Birth of a Nation, I
Oh,
remember thinking,
we're gonna talk about that a little later. You know, we're gonna talk about that a little later.
I just remember thinking, there's no way that I'm ever going to get this part.
Yeah.
So there are people that feel that way, and it always surprised me, because my dad always taught me. He would say to me, my dad was Polish. He was a Holocaust survivor, not the death camps, but the um, not the concentration camp, but the internment camps, the
Okay. Yeah.
hiding in attics and basements and farms and everything. And he always said, when you go to the job, what you have to do is you have to wear a tie. Let them know you mean business. And what he meant to do, what he meant to say, was be your best self. And that's what I do. And I think about my dad every day.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I do. And that's really what it is. And, you know, I tell you, immigrants, I come from immigrant people too. People who come and they know hard work.
You can almost tell a lot of the time who has an immigrant parent, because those are the people that appreciate my hard work, and the ones that don't, because it's like there's this, you know, my mom and I have been talking a lot because she's the only person I see during this pandemic.
Well, you talk about, she's in your act, she's in your stuff, you talk about your mom all the time.
You know, my mom is, you know, she's my family. She's the only family that I have. Yeah. And we were talking a lot about the idea of showing up, you know, in life, and how some people want you just to appear, and the idea also of historical poverty or historical wealth. You know, if you come from I said, Mom, we're very, very lucky, you know, right now financially. I saved my money. She saved her money. We've been able to take care of ourselves during this pandemic. We have food on the table. We were smart enough to know how to go on the net, and I was able to get all the things. You know, there's some people that just cannot figure this stuff out. And also somebody says, why don't these people pull themselves up by their bootstraps? I said, well, because maybe they don't even know what a bootstrap is. And you have to tell somebody, you know, my dad took me by the hand and told me how to take care of myself. He wasn't the warmest person. He wasn't the easiest person, but through his actions, he showed me how to take care of myself. And my mom taught me how to be funny and sexy. She taught me how to get a guy, but not keep him.
I can get all the men in the world, but they don't stay that long. They don't stay that long. It's funny. Yes. No, it's funny because I grew up with parents and grandparents who were hard work. They came here, they were hard workers. They came from other
Where are they from?
So my mother's Puerto Rican. My father's from Holland. They're from Holland. And they came over here, and I have family from Eastern European culture, of course, too, and all Caribbean stuff. So I'm that typical Caribbean boy with 10 jobs. Everybody's like, you got 10 jobs, you work all the time. But I was...
Well, that's why you connect to me in my book, because I'm an immigrant son. That's the first thing I am.
I know, exactly. And I said, for me, I hold them on my shoulders. Whatever I do, I know they're with me because they fought for things so I could do this. You know,
so I think that I stand on their shoulders because they lifted me up.
Well, mine are wings. They help me fly. That's how it's all the same thing. Basically, it's the same concept, right? It's like you don't forget them. You don't forget about them. It's they're in the past. Blah, blah, blah. Like, no, they did things that I didn't have to do. I'm not a maid. I'm not a janitor. But these are things they had to do to raise the 10 kids. You know, and make sure we had. I mean,
my father started as he came to the United States. He worked in a tie manufacturing company as a janitor. Then he worked himself up to being a tie cutter, and then he worked himself up to being the head of the department. And he learned how to cut ties in a certain way that was very fast, and he was known for it. And he got jobs here, and he became the manager of the department. He became part owner, vice president, then part owner of the company. And then he was a self-made millionaire, basically.
See, they work hard. I mean, there's something. I always say there's no substitute for hard work, and I tell these young kids say all the time in the business. You know, sometimes I know you want it now. I know you feel like, well, I'm good at what I do.
I worked here a year. I'm here a year. I should be running the company now.
Right.
My dad worked in the same place for 35 years, and then he went into real estate afterwards and did very well. And people always say, well, you're a rich kid. Not at all. I was never treated. I was treated. I had to work for everything. I had to get a job, pay for my car insurance. I had to, I had to pay for all my own stuff. You know, I didn't take money from my parents. I was very, very self-made myself. I was very much my own man. And it took me a while to realize what my father had really done for me.
But also in this business, none of that shit matters at the end of the day, because you're going in as you anyway to every audition. You're going in you as every project. They're looking at you. Are you right for this? What your parents have doesn't mean anything in the end. You know what I mean? Like it's all on.
I don't agree. I'll tell you why.
Tell
Because
me
I
why.
think everything that you are, you wear.
Okay.
Every piece of you. There's a part of me. I'm the kid that they beat up in school. I'm the kid that was really funny. I'm the kid who's a great kisser. I'm the guy who's, went to acting class and just completely turned myself around and became a character actor when I didn't even know who I was. Excuse me. I have all these things that I grew up being. So I do believe that we carry that all with us, and other people see it. It's like if somebody would turn the lights off and you could see what everything is.
I like that.
You could see what connects. Like I really believe that it's attached. I really believe that our cell phone.
Yeah.
I had it plugged in. I really believe that our cell phone is and spirituality are connected. And I know that's weird.
That's not weird. I can see that.
The idea that the internet or the cell phone or this whole way that we communicate now that gets me to have this moment with you is a God shot, because you're exactly what I needed today. For someone to go, during this pandemic, you start to sit and think, am I ever going to work again? Am I still funny? Do people even care about where my career goes anymore? When will comedy come back? Will they let me get back in? Will I get another great role in something? You never know. You just don't know anything. And I believe that the internet or the phone and God are connected, because if you shut off all the lights, you see the connections. How can I call somebody from another place, tell them I love them, and I'm just thinking about you? How do I do that? That's right through the internet. So there's something about that. You can't see how we're attached to God or higher power or whatever you want to call it, but where we're going to go next. And I always think, do we go someplace, or are we here all the time and this body just goes away? And I tend to think, I know nothing for sure, but I tend to think that we're always here. Heaven and hell are right here on earth. We don't have to go anywhere for it. I think they sort of misinterpreted that. It wasn't a place, it's a feeling. Because everybody thinks that there's a beginning, middle, and end. Like, you asked me to do this interview, I came online, I did this interview, we talked, we laughed, we cried, we finished, and then I moved on. That's beginning, middle, and end. But I don't think that is, because now you're a part of me. This experience is a part of me. I don't believe that there is a, that we go anywhere. I think we're always here. For those of you who are watching, I'm on a little bit of medication.
No,
A little loopy.
you sound very good. I mean, to me, you sound great. I'm just listening to you.
I had a little bit of a outpatient surgery on my foot, so I took some medication.
Honestly, I'm going conscious. I mean, I'm seeing a different side of you I've never seen before. I love it. I'm used to the funny side.
This is all stuff that I do in my lecture.
Yeah, I know you do lecturing stuff, but I do want to go back to the gay thing in the '90s, because I remember I saw something you did where you talked about how great actress singer Leah Delaria said to you at a pride parade, "Why didn't you come out before?" And it was like in the mid '90s. And I just really want to emphasize to people again.
Let me tell people what happened. I was sitting in Gay Pride. It was 1995, I believe. I was sitting in a car. On the car, it said Jason Stuart out there from Comedy Central. We did 3 specials, one from New York, one from LA, and one from San Francisco. And I was in the one from LA, which they called Hollywood, coming out in Hollywood. It was out there in Hollywood. And Leah walked by my car, and she said, "What took you so long? Why didn't you come out before?" And I don't even know if she ever heard this, but she just I just took a beat and I went, I didn't know I could. It never occurred to me that I had that privilege. And she was one of the first people. I was in San Francisco doing the Holy City Zoo. I was staying in a rented room in someone's house, and I was looking through the gay magazines, and there was a picture that was taken of her, and it was like you know, like she was through a peephole, you know, and she was like that, and it said bull in a China, bull dyke in a china shop, something like that. And she was one of the first people. And when I got the book, I called her to come on my radio show when my book came out. And I called her, and she said, first thing she says was, how did you get my number? I said, you gave it to me. And she still hasn't changed. We talked for a couple of minutes. We caught up a bit. And she had me call her agent or whatever. And then they sent me an email saying that she couldn't do the show.
Well, it's great. Well, it's funny because, you know, a lot of you guys know her from Orange is the New Black, but she also did some Born to Live years ago. I knew her because I was in San Francisco. I was in San Francisco from 93 to 2009. So, I mean, I remember her from doing things.
Big groundbreaker.
Yes, yes.
A ball of talent.
Yeah.
You know, always said the wrong thing at the wrong time.
I love it. I love it. I mean, sometimes you need that sometimes. I think I need that sometimes in my performers. But, I mean, I want people to understand that this was not something, because that was just like you said, the privilege to do this, because it wasn't something that was just normal. Like, this wasn't a thing that everybody just comes out.
No, Leah was way before. Leah, let me list some names. Leah Delaria, Bob Smith, Kate Clinton, Jaffe Cohen, Karen Williams, Bruce Valanche. All these comics came before me, and I stand on their shoulders. And whether they like me or not, or, you know, or just, you know, anything, I really I revere them, and I'll never ever say anything bad about them to anyone.
Yeah.
You know, because I think they're all, whatever happened, they made some room so I could come in. Suzanne Westenhofer.
Oh yeah.
You know, so many.
But the thing is, you did this.
Michael Greer. No one even knows Michael Greer.
Wow.
Mark Davis.
Yeah, I know Mark Davis. Yeah. Now here's what's funny. So you did this comedy special for Comedy Central that was groundbreaking. I mean, this was not like something done before.
And then HBO picked 2 of them to have their own half-hour specials. And then Bob Smith was the first guy to go on The Tonight Show. Yeah. Bob Smith was a much more polite act, and Suzanne was very pretty. And so they picked, you know, the Barbie and Ken of our set. Both very funny people. Yeah. Don't let me not people think that. Both very funny and very talented. But that's what they picked, you know. And I think a loud Jew was probably not on their radar.
I love loud Jews. So here's the thing: when you were, if you can remember, when you were picking your set to do, did you realize how important this was, and did it affect you picking what you were going to talk about?
On that show, I remember them saying, you know, because I called them a lot and asked them if I could be on the show, and I remember, and they never said yes.
Oh.
I called them, and I remember them saying, Jason, we're going to have you on. You don't have to call us. And I was never sure, because they never said to me those words. So they sort of made me feel, you know, again, like I was trying too hard, where other people were asked immediately. I was in the 3rd special they had, but apparently they'd been planning it. They just didn't want to tell me for sure. And I put together my set very much like a nightclub comedian. And a lot of the other people who were on the show were performance artists or gay performers who'd only worked in gay venues. So it was a different, and a mix of, and some of them, of course, like Bob and Suzanne, had done comedy clubs. So they were more proficient in that area, because each kind of thing was a different experience. And I had been on television several times. I had done maybe 10 different television shows, from Star Search, Evening at the Improv, Comedy on the Road, all those kind of shows, Showtime, Comedy Club Network. I had done a lot of those. So I had the experience of knowing that you stand still, tell your jokes, and that's it. And no matter what happens, they'll fix it. If somebody doesn't laugh at something, you don't have to comment on it. And they were very surprised that I was such, I remember they were very surprised that I was so methodical, and so that I knew my craft. But that was 1995, so I'd been a comedian for 12 years by then. So, that's why it also, when I come into the gay world, a lot of people, didn't understand why I was getting all this attention. And I think it was because I was very prepared to work in mainstream, because that's where I came from. So I understood it better. The harder, I had to watch all the other comedians, and I learned from them, especially Leah. I have to say, I learned from her, because I remember her running all around at Gay Pride, and almost, almost grandstanding. And I thought, when I saw her do that on their senior show, I thought, God, why is she doing that? Why is she running around? She's going to dilute the joke. And then I thought, oh, and I saw her she was the headlining host of San Diego Gay Pride, or one of the gay prides. I think it was that one. And I was on the bill. And I remember thinking, oh my God, that's what she's doing. She's worked mostly at these outside venues, and she knows how to handle these big audiences. And I really learned from them. I learned from Suzanne to slow down, that it's okay to tell a story. I learned from Bob, to commit to your jokes no matter what happens. Kay Clinton had a soft tone. I opened for her a number of times. Karen Williams was just one of the funniest people you've ever seen in your entire life. And she really had this incredible amount of confidence. I just love them all. Mark Davis, oh my God, he was just so creative, and his ideas were so completely different than anybody else. He was so original. There were just some wonderful comedians from my era.
Well, I saw the specials, so I saw them, and I'm telling you again, it was like fascinating. It was like we all talked about it. Like we all got together, and I think it was at my house or somebody's house, wherever in San Francisco, and we all watched them together because we had never seen that before.
Oh, it was crazy, wasn't it?
It was just like, I mean, it's just there's nothing like representation. It really isn't. It just there's no substitute for it, and it really isn't when you're yearning to see something that you can relate to in a way that's really intimate. Like your jokes, the things you were saying were kind of intimate to us. Like you were saying things that we could take in and go, yeah, or okay, or ha ha. It's like we could take that in.
Or just the fact that he's talking to us, or she's talking to us.
Got it, right.
Or that they're there. My mom will say, why do you care if that person gay all the time? It's my ex-boyfriend, Tony. He was telling me about the first time they saw The Supremes on TV. He was black. So he said, this is the first time that that his grandmother called people on long distance. They couldn't believe, and he said his grandmother didn't even get to watch the show because she was so busy on the phone calling people, telling them that there were black people on TV. It was just so exciting for them. And that's the same way it felt for us.
Well, now, was there any trepidation that you wouldn't work again, or that you just be this little niche thing?
If anybody wants some history, you go to my website, and there's a clip from Geraldo.
Yes, I know. Oh, yeah.
Out in 1993,
and
did stand up on that show too. Yep. It was called Unconventional Comedians, and you could see that my voice was hoarse. I was completely scared half to death. I wasn't as articulate as I am now, but I have to say, when I watch it compared to where I was 8 years before that on Star Search, I was more together. I was always afraid to walk into. I have a great fear of when I was younger, meeting people, being first day at school, first day at work, all first days, and on Star Search, you only have this one shot. They don't interview you. You don't get a second chance on the couch, all that kind of stuff. I really should watch that Merv Griffin again and see that. I don't have a VCR, but I really should have that transferred and watched just for some edification. But you really don't realize the implications of what it feels like to see what you've done and where it went and who you are because of it. People forget,
They do.
I'll say this, and I won't name names, but I've worked in some of the biggest clubs in the country, and there was one club that I'd worked with the most, and this particular club owner had been sexually harassing me for so many years, a straight person, and asking me really inappropriate questions and repeating it over and over again. And then somebody famous who was a friend of mine said, what's going on? Why aren't you coming by the club anymore, except when you're doing your sets? And I said, well, I just was getting these anxiety attacks. And when the Me Too thing came up, I was getting these sort of post-traumatic stress stuff from it. And I had gone to a therapist to see what was going on because I really didn't know. And I thought, if you're a comedian, you have to take this. And I'd had that happen, not just by him, but by others, but because this particular one was it was so important to me. And I thought of him as a work friend.
Mm.
And apparently I wasn't allowed to talk about it. And then basically he fired me, and I never worked there again. And it's changed my perspective on things. He won't talk to me about it. And maybe he's afraid I'm going to sue him. And I thought about it, and I actually went to see a lawyer, and I thought about what I wanted to do, because you're not allowed to fire people for speaking up and saying, "Hey, stop that."
Right. Right.
Or say, "Hey, this guy's doing this." And when all I wanted was a conversation. And you have to realize that in life, sometimes you're not going to have that conversation. Sometimes things are not going to be, there's no closure, and you have to move on.
You have to.
And this particular one was a hard one for me to do because it was prestigious. And now that I'm not attached to it, you lose that prestige. And I loved working there, loved it.
Yeah.
It was my home.
Do you have a problem being called, if someone says, gay comedian? Jason
No,
Stuart.
no.
I know some folks have that. They have that issue. Don't call me a gay actor. Don't call me a gay musician. Don't call me.
I like being called actor and comedian because, much like Shirley MacLaine, who always says she was a dancer first,
Yes.
I'm an actor first. The comedian and that fame came later from that. The success came. If I hadn't been a comedian, I don't think they would have chosen me. Like Barbara Streisand says, if I hadn't been a singer, I never would have gotten any work as an actress.
My girl Babs. Yes.
They wouldn't let us through.
Right. Right. And so I know some folks have that issue. Like, don't call me a gay host, or don't call me a this. Or I'm like, I always feel like as long as it's not bad, call me.
Well, I remember, the Tonight Show was very, very anti-women in the day. I thought that's my opinion.
Except for Roseanne, right? I guess Roseanne was the only one. Kinda.
No, there were Joan Rivers was on, and they had them, but like Joan said, and she was never on the list to become the host when he was leaving. There was 10 guys for every woman. Maureen Murphy was on. God bless her, she passed away. Elaine Boozler, but there were less women too. So of course, there's going to be less women comedians. But I remember when Roseanne came on the show, Roseanne Barr, and I remember him. He said, "Next comedian is a woman." And Roseanne Barr, there's not a lot of funny women out there, but we found one. And I remember him, I thought, oh my God, I'm sure she didn't hear that, but I thought, wow, it's because, and that made me think, it's not just women, it's the idea of doing comedy in a different kind of way. It's more woman-oriented, or that's more ethnic. So, if you notice the Black comedians or the Hispanic comedians on the show, it's the ones that were more white, heterosexual, Christian, Protestant, okay,
Yep.
Okay, they would do it in that kind of a way that was more appropriate, I guess, for what they thought was their audience. Though they were the biggest show on television, but of course, the gay people or the women or the Latinos or the Black people that were watching the show, of course, they don't count because it's always about white, heterosexual, Protestant men, and it's about what they think first and what we think is second. And then if we take that away from them, they get very upset because they're used to eating a whole pie. I'm lucky that I had a whole piece to eat, one piece.
Yeah.
And then that was taken away from me at times, and then I had to get it back. Sometimes I had two pieces just for a short time, and then of course, then I get a piece that was half eaten, or and then I make it into a piece, and I would do whatever I had to do. People don't understand that if you're not a minority person. And also being a Jew, and even though they say the Jews run the business. Yeah, but Jews in the business never let Jews use their real names, didn't want people to know that you were Jewish, that kind of thing. They even see, women as being pushed, I'm watching that show, Mrs. America.
Oh, yeah.
Kate Blanchett and Tracy Ullman.
Yeah.
All these wonderful actresses.
Yeah.
And Bella Abzug was played by Margot Martindale. They were talking about how, why don't they because they don't want loud Jews. They don't want anybody that speaks their mind or, doesn't behave, isn't more polite in a certain way. And certainly I like polite people. That's not it. It's just the cultures are different. And I think that's why I've always, you know, when I started to work, I was one of the only comedians that me and Dave Parker that I remember, the only white comedians that worked at the Comedy Act Theater in the Crenshaw area of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
With, I don't know if people out there remember Robin Harris. He was the host.
Yes, of course, I
He
do.
really wasn't the host. It was really his show, and you would come on and just do a 5-minute guest spot. He would do 3 hours of comedy, and maybe 5 people or 6 people would come on. And Michael Williams, the owner, let me, and I'd either go on and I'd kill or I'd die. And I always felt at home there.
Have you ever did the J Spot in Inglewood?
Of course, that's Anthony
Yes.
James Brown.
Yes.
I middled for him on the road.
Yeah, I figured. Yes.
Yeah, and I've worked at the J Spot.
Right. I was good with that. Yes, great place. I've been comedy, but no, you're right. It's the thing. So I mean, what is your comedy these days? What are you coming up with these days? What are you speaking to?
Certainly now I'm talking about the pandemic and my mom and the idea of you know, my last relationship that fell apart. I say that I was with this Italian man, and he was just gorgeous, and he's actually Italian. You know, he had lived in this country a short time, and he came out 10 years ago, so he's a new gay, you know, like a Star Wars figures. He's like in a box, you know, and he has that new gay car smell, and nobody touched him or messed him up yet. And I had done a movie, Hank, where I gained 10 pounds for it. Okay, 15. The director said they wanted me to be plump in this role, and then I lost 10 of it. And he said, don't get too skinny. I like you the way you are. And I said, I'm going to marry you before Trump has you deported. So things like that. So I talk about my relationships and that, and I talk about my mom and the newest thing with my mom. You know, what's happening. Like, she loves Ross Dress for Less.
Okay.
Oh God! So I have to. She says, "Why don't you come with me?" I said, "I'm not that kind of gay. I'm the worst gay son. How can you not like shopping?" You know, she goes in the store and she buys a blouse. I'm not kidding. 3 of them in different colors, exactly alike. They all have 3 arms on it. I said, "Mom, they have 3 arms." She says, "I don't give a shit. I'll make a bow. They were $1.99."
I know mothers like that. I do. I know mothers like that. Yeah.
And that's what I talk about. I talk about the pandemic, and I talk about, you know, the way I was in the supermarket, you know, trying to get in and get out. This older man not wearing gloves. He's touching all the peaches. I said, "What are you doing? Stop touching. You get one, you walk out. That's how you do it. You're not buying it. You're buying a peach, not a car."
I love it. What would Jason Stuart tell his Jason Stuart self in 1995? Hey, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, do something else.
That's the best answer.
Way too hard.
That's the best answer.
If I would have, you remember that movie, Defending Your Life with Albert Brooks?
Yes.
And you have to see your whole life and defend it. And if I would know what I knew, I would have been way too frightened. You know, I would have been I was a scaredy cat. I still am.
Really?
I go everything scared. I do it, but I walk through my fears.
How do you walk through it? Because some people
Because
are scared.
can I say the F word?
Say it. Shit.
I fucking love being an actor.
Okay.
I love going to the set, working with talented people, being with a director that you just love, that you've wanted to work with forever, and trying to create a performance that reflects the filmmaker's vision. I love that more than anything. And I really fell in love with the craft of that. And I love the idea that you can go see something I did in a room in the dark, and it can change the way you thought of life. You can change your opinion. Can we talk about Birth of a Nation?
I'm about to ask you one question right now. That's your perfect segue. We're good. I know you're a host also, so you know how to do this. When I saw the movie, of course, I didn't realize you were in it when I saw it.
A lot of people didn't.
So now you know you, man. Again, I'm a fan of yours. I follow your work. I've seen your many things, and you come on screen playing a slave owner.
In 1831,
yes.
a white heterosexual Christian slave owner taught small farmers like you, myself.
But it worked. It totally worked. Like, Jason, I totally believed. I hated you. I mean, as a black person, I hated you. Like, I totally believed it. At first, I was like, oh. At first, I was like, oh, I know him. I think oh, okay. And I saw the credits later, but it totally worked, Jason. I'm telling you that. That means you do like acting, actually you do acting, and like that was some acting.
Well, I always say I'm not a one-trick pony.
Okay. So
And
what? So what did you wait? So what did you learn about yourself playing that role?
well, first of all, you know, I don't exist on television or in films most of the time. Maybe in independent films, but nothing. I don't exist. Most gay roles are done for people under 40. They want them to have beautiful bodies and be gorgeous. And even if they're not white, they want them to have white features. I don't have white features. I have a big nose. You know, my eyes are sort of almond shaped. My lower lip is very big. You know, I'm bald. I don't look like, you know,
I think we're related. I'm looking at each other. We're very much becoming
we could be brothers from another mother.
seriously.
We're gonna have the same dad.
My life, that's possible. But yes.
With my mother, it's possible too.
Anyway, as you're saying.
And I remember when I got the audition, I was going with Jenny McNulty. We were going to do a set at the Ventura Harbor Comedy Club. We were in the car, and I got an audition on my phone. I went, "Oh my God!" I said, "I can't." They want it tomorrow. It's from my agent in the South. Do you want the long version or the short version of this?
The version that's very interesting, I don't care how long it is or short.
Okay.
I
I like telling the long version.
Tell me.
It's really,
you got time, tell me.
it's a godsend. So I got the audition and I said to Jenny, "Oh my God, I can't do this." They want it by 12 o'clock the next day, which 2 o'clock their time in New Orleans. So I got agents all over the country around 10 years ago.
Okay.
Because I realized they were doing tax breaks in different states, and I couldn't get good auditions. I couldn't get good parts, and that's when I decided to not go on the road as much anymore. And when Dane Cook started this whole thing with MySpace and social media, and I didn't understand how to do it, and my fans didn't understand how to find me, so it was very hard to promote your gigs when all this changed. It became a different world, and I was exhausted, and I wanted to be home.
Yeah.
So when I got this audition, and I didn't know what to do, so I called. I had an assistant that I had come in once a week at that time. Luckily, I was doing that. I didn't have a publicist, so I had an assistant come in and help me once a week. I said, "Get there at 9 a.m." And there was a big monologue, which was the walk and talk in the scene with Armie Hammer and Nate Parker. And then there was the scene where I had to meet them. You know, nay, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. I forgot the name. Oh, it's a long one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when I had to do that, so we did the scene. I worked on the whole thing, and we had done it in I think 2 hours and 20 minutes. 11:20, we sent it off. So I forgot about it. Just waited, and a week later, I got a call, and they said some guy named Nate Parker wants you to come to Savannah, Georgia. You know, so on my own dime, I used a frequent flyer. I went there. I stayed in this shit motel. I got this terrible rent-a-wreck. There was a woman hanging over the balcony there, pregnant and smoking a cigarette. A guy was by the pool. Looked like he could rape you in your room or kill you.
So you're like, come on in. No,
Right. And in my room, I was practicing the N-word because I'd never said the N-word really out loud.
I'm sure, right?
Except maybe in my car,
Right.
know, singing to Snoop Dogg with the windows down, you know, not knowing that I was going to do that. So I'd never really done it. So I'm in my hotel room, I'm practicing the N-word, I'm saying my part. So I want to make it sound like it's a part of who I am and not, you know, Jason Stuart, liberal gay Jew. I had to be this plantation owner. So I hear a knock on the door. It's the housekeeper. She said, "What's going on in there? I hear voices." I said, "Oh, it's nothing. It's just Donald Trump on TV." So I drive to this mall. That's where they're seeing people in a storefront, which they've turned into a casting office. It's, you know, and I got there 3 hours early. I'm in the parking lot after I had lunch at this lovely little restaurant. And I'm in the parking lot rehearsing my lines. And some man comes over and he says, "I know you." And I said, "Who's this?" And it was Nate Parker.
Oh.
I didn't recognize him because he had a beard and a hat on. And he said something to me. He's so handsome and he's so charming and he has such incredible presence. I didn't hear a word he said, but I went like this. And that was my first day meeting him. So then when I waited for the audition, I went in, I did it. He said, "That was great. Do it again. But this guy has a sense of humor. Can you be funny?" And I went,
"Can I be funny?" Yeah.
I was like Barbara Streisand and Funny Girl. "Can I roller skate? Are you kidding?" So I did it again, and I asked him, "Can I do both scenes?" Because he asked me to do only one. He said, "Sure," because I wanted to work myself up. So when I got to the monologue, I was really in it, and I did it. He said, "Thank you so much. That was great." I said, "Thank you. It was a pleasure." I said, "This is a great project. Good luck to you." And I thought I'd never hear from him. And then I got a call the next day. I think it was the next day. And I was talking to my friend Terry on the phone. And I remember I said, "Hold on, it's my agent." And I never went back to him. I forgot that. And my agent's assistant calls me. She goes, "How you doing?" I said, "Fine." She says, "Well, how's your day going?" I said, "It's fine." She says, "Well, it's about to get a lot better." I said, "Why?" She said, "You got the part." I said, "What part?" I didn't even fall into my consciousness that I thought it might have been one of the other films that I auditioned for a couple of weeks ago. She said, "The Plantation Owner." I just completely burst into tears because I could not believe that somebody was letting me do this. Somebody asked me to come and sit at the big table. I'd been sitting at the card table a long time, and sometimes I would be able to hang around the table or walk around it or stand in back.
Wave people over there. Hi.
This was a major supporting role with 8 scenes in a major film starring Nate Parker, Armie Hammer, God, what's her name? Gabrielle Union, Jackie Earle Haley, Roger Gabriel Smith, who I worked with before. It was so many. Naomi King from Whatever Happened to What Is Not Whatever. How to Get Away with Murder. So many brilliant actors. I was like asking to, and I wasn't worried. I never worried about actors. Isn't that interesting? Very rarely. And I've worked with everyone from George Clooney to Schwarzenegger to Faye Dunaway, Angela Lansbury, Angelina Jolie. I can go down the list. Never ever, because actors I find mostly and comedians are completely supportive. It's just the director and the set. Nate created this place where you just felt like you were part of a theater company. And I felt so a part of it. And I remember that his acting coach, because he directed the film and acted, so he had an acting coach on the set, and he asked me to do my accent, and I did. He said, "Where'd you learn that accent? That's good." I said, "Oh, roots, I guess. I don't know." And then, they asked me to be a part of this. We went to Sundance, and in Sundance, when people come on stage at the end of the film, people clap for almost 10 minutes. And when people come on stage, they usually let the stars come on stage, the top stars, Penelope and Miller. God, we become friends. Lovely, lovely people. The late Esther Scott, who was really my dearest friend. She played the grandmother. Yeah. She passed recently. God bless her. Yeah. And we all got on stage, and I remember Esther took her shoes off because she was wearing those big Uggs and they were so sweaty, so she took them off because at the theater, and he called my name. She said, "Well, he didn't call my name." I said, "He did call your name. Just get your shoes on, come on." And Penny said the same. "You didn't call my," and we're all like, it's because he called everybody from people who had one line to assistants to anybody that was in the film. There were like 50 people on stage. It was the most incredible feeling. I felt like I'd had a balloon and they just pulled me up, and I was just, I couldn't, I just kept saying, "I've got to be able to feel this, that you're in this." Yeah. And I'll say one more thing. People said, "When you first saw the film, how did you feel?" I said, "I cried 3 times. First, I cried because I'd only read the script once or twice, because I didn't want to read the script over and over again, because 2015 at the time when I did the film, Jason Stuart, liberal gay Jew guy, could not really put himself in that time. I can't do that. It's not possible for me to put myself in that time of those people. So I just pretended that the N-word was the word, it was like a color, like red or blue or purple. And I was using it to just emphasize something. And that's what I had in my mind when I said it. And then I would just do the action of each scene. What am I here? I'm here to mentor him. I'm here to show him how smart I am. I'm here to show him the way. I'm here to let him have a good time. I'm here to befriend him. I just played the scene. And Armie was so great. And everybody was so wonderful. And it just completely changed who I am as a human being when you're allowed to sit at that table in that way. I've been in other films where I've had parts in the last 15 years. It started at, I think, 2005 when I got Puff Puff Pass. Mekhi Phifer directed that, and The Coffee Date with Stuart Wade directed. When I got those 2 films, that's when I started doing bigger parts. And that took a long time. We're talking, 20 years from the first time I guest started on a show, Life and Times of Eddie Roberts, and had 4 scenes. It took a long time to get big parts again. And what I learned from the film the most is that I can be, well, there's 2 things. One, I can be in a film that was directed by a Black man, starring a Black man, and produced by a Black man, and written by a Black man, telling his story from his point of view. And I can be a bad guy and be a part of this. And people would ask me, how do you feel playing it? I said, I feel great, because I am telling the story through his eyes. And they said, well, what's your opinion on all this? I said, I don't have an opinion. What I do is I take off my shoes, I put on the shoes of my Black brothers and sisters, and I just shut up and listen. And that's what you have to do, because it's not your experience.
I like that. That's beautiful the way you said that, actually.
It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But now someone can go in the theater or now watch it on Amazon. It's on Amazon. You can watch it for a few dollars now. And they can sit in a room by themselves or in the dark and watch this story and not forget, and know about the history of our country, and know why some people are where they are in life. It's been less than 200 years since we've had slavery. And still people have, it's still a part of the next generation below us are the ones that, have forgotten.
Yeah, no, I tell all the time. I say, I was born during the civil rights movement. I remember busing as a kid in the '70s. I'm still coming out of all that. So yeah, my kids.
I don't think you ever really do. I don't think you ever really lose that. You don't lose that. I know who people are.
Yeah.
I know history. But I also love history. I love knowing where something came from and how it derived. And I always think life is a Rubik's Cube. We can be in the same room, sitting at my dining room table. You can see the one painting on one wall above my couch, Keith Haring. I'll see that if I'm sitting on that side, and you're going to see the Moreau if you're sitting the other way. And we're going to be in the same room, but we see 2 completely different pictures. And that's how life is. And sometimes you just have to go, okay, somebody sees something different because of where they come from.
Right.
Share your experience with them.
I thought it was just beautiful the way you said that you were there to serve his vision.
That's what I absolutely love that as a actor. Is to, I did this little film called Hank with this Chinese director. And I say that he's Chinese because he didn't speak English completely well. This was 2 years ago. He speaks it much better now. It was and the DP, director of photography, was Russian. So it was, and I was a star of this little film called Hank about this couple who one wants an open relationship and one doesn't. And it was a very quiet character. And I was offered the part, and when I was offered it, I called him and I said, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this. And he thought that I was auditioning him. And I said, no, not at all. I said, I definitely want to do this. I just want to know where you stand. I want to rehearse. He says, well, I can't pay you to rehearse. It's a very low. I said, I don't mind. I want to do it. I'll do it for free. And I rehearsed for free to the people and the guy that played my husband. And I said, can we cut out some dialogue? And he said, I've never seen an actor want to cut out dialogue, because I realized that a film is meant to see. A play is meant to say. So I said, I can do things where I don't have to say it. And to me, it's a performance I've always wanted to give. That was much harder than doing Birth of a Nation, because I'm a talky person. So, but I love doing that film. I loved that experience.
You're right about that. There's times when I see a performance where there's very little dialogue. It's in the eyes. It's in the movements. It's in a glance. It's in, you walked over, picked up a cup or something that says what's going on. And sometimes that's better than just talking it all out. Sometimes. I agree with that. I can see you doing really soulful, quiet performance. I think the misconception, I think sometimes, is that a lot of us who are talkers, I talk for a living, clearly. I talk for a living. So I do that we can't be quiet.
Well, people always assume they know who I am. And I'm not. I'm not one. I'm not one. I'm not a one-trick pony.
Right? You're not
I
just one thing. You're not just one thing.
stand-up is one part of me. Though I love what it's done for me, there's a part of me that feels like, God, it's me at a much younger age, you know. And as a stand-up, I passed the point of somebody wanting to do a series with me, or so I've created my own series called Smothered.
Yes.
7 episodes.
Yes.
They're 5-minute episodes. They're soon going to be on Amazon. If there's anybody that knows how to get it on Amazon quicker, please Facebook me. We're working on it, and so far we finally got it there. We haven't made any more errors in putting it in, so that's what's going to happen. And at the same time, we're also meeting with bigwig production companies to do it as a half-hour show. I co-wrote, co-produced, co-acted, co-created with this incredibly talented, funny man, Mitch Hara, who asked me to do it. And I'm very excited about the possibilities of what's going to happen with that. And then, of course, there's my book.
The book. We got
talking. And it's available on Amazon. And if you live in a different country and you're watching it, you can get it through CCB Publishing if you want to, if you don't have an Amazon account. And it's not Lord and Taylor.
That's something different.
It's in all. It's all over. But Amazon and CCB Publishing. And if you forget, you can just go to my website, which is jasonstuart.com, STUART, and all my social media is there.
It's all there. It's a good website, so it's very easy to navigate. Very easy to navigate. But I mean, no, you're fascinating. I feel like I've seen a different side of you this interview, and I love it. Thanks for sharing this stuff with me. I appreciate it.
Being myself.
I love it. No, I love it. It was great. It's again, I've seen you on screen. I've seen you in different things, and this was a very. I mean, I do these interviews not just for the fan, I do them for me too, and I got something out of it. So thank you very much.
Well, you have to. I think the best interviewer is someone that's actually interested.
Yes.
It does. What's the question you want to ask me that you are afraid to ask me? Do you have anything that you're afraid to ask?
That's a guy. I'm a fearless person, so I don't mean get afraid. But that's a very good question. I have one for you.
Okay, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Okay, no, this is good. I have one for you. Why do you think you don't have a successful relationship right now?
Oh God, that probably because of, I have a sister who became an Orthodox Jew when I was around 30 years old, and she basically, cut the ties and dumped me. I have a brother that was very abusive. I have parents who, my mom and dad got married because my mom was pregnant at 17. My uncle and his wife cheated and married somebody else and then went back to each other, back and forth. So I didn't have a lot of examples of what a good relationship would be. And I think things happened. I kept picking people that were unavailable. So I picked unavailable men so they could reject me, like my family did. Because that's what I was used to. And it wasn't something that I felt that I wanted or felt that I was supposed to have. It's more of a habit. It's more of, you learn something a certain way. You go home, you drive home to your house, you don't think about it. Instead of consciously going, maybe there's a shorter way. Maybe I should be driving slower. Maybe I shouldn't run that stop sign. And then some things happened that are personal that I won't talk about that really devastated me in around 2000-ish. And all through the 90s, I had all these boyfriends that were just so wrong for me. And the rejection was so big. There were like 4 in a 10-year period. And then I just, then I probably think until 2004 or 5, I started looking again. And then for the last 15 years, I've had a number of boyfriends, but nobody that stuck, And I think it's also me. I think then I find this is so weird to talk about in an interview, but there are 2 kinds of men when you're in show business. There are ones that put you on a pedestal, and then there's the other. It's the same like in the gay community, and there's that resent you for what you're doing. Or one guy I met here in Palm Springs, and he said, I can't date a celebrity. I said, I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a guy that works. believe me, you're going to ask, 1 out of 100 people will know who I am or something, and if you're not, if you're going to go to the Mormon temple, they're not going to know who I am except the closeted gay guys.
Right. Right.
There are even some young gay people that probably don't know who I am.
Right.
I rarely ever get calls from people. I remember Guy Brenham,
Oh yeah.
who he came on my podcast and he said something on another radio show. He said, Jason Stuart doesn't get the credit he deserves. Something like that. And that touched me so, and I'll never forget him for just saying that.
Yeah.
And he came on my show, and, because he's a writer and he's worked behind the scenes, gay people have been allowed to do that more than stand in front. Though by being a writer, he's pushed himself to the front, and he's doing incredibly well.
Yes. Yes.
And he has a great book out too.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's Guy Brenham. I don't know what his book is called. I can't remember, but it's a wonderful book, and he's a much better writer than me. Mine is like a Jacqueline Suzanne novel, isn't it? It's just like me talking. His is.
Well, that's why I liked it, because it's very relatable.
His is much smarter and more esoteric and more. He's much more prolific than me, but mine is called "Shut Up, I'm Talking." Available at Amazon and CCB Publishing.
Wait a minute, I also want to ask you. I did write this down. I want to ask you, what does being a gay man mean to you these days?
A lot of reflection, certainly these days. A lot of trying to clear up the wreckage of my past. I'm still doing that. And a lot of it's habit more than feelings. Letting go, forgiving, letting go, really letting go. Forgiving I can do. Letting go, just really letting go of the things that don't work, even if I still want them bad. Knowing that I might never get to the place I want to get, and for that to be okay. I think I have more film roles in me, or more good roles in me. But you can't, that art you cannot do by yourself. I think I'd like to do a documentary on myself, but I need to find a documentary filmmaker. That's my next probably big project. People wanted me to do a one-man show for years, but I don't think I'm ready.
Okay.
Smothered is now my it's on the front burner.
Yeah.
So that's the one. And so I've, things that I want to do over the next 10 years, 5 years.
Was there a milestone age that made you start to feel shift for you? Do you see, I know for me when I turned
49 was a big deal, because I'm so organized that I prepared for 50.
How funny is that? You did? That's so funny.
I felt bad all through 49, so I could feel better at 50.
Yeah, 50 changed for me. I'm also very aware now as I'm getting old, as I'm in my 50s, I'm getting older, that, if I'm lucky, I have another good 30 years probably to do what I'm doing. I'm kind of aware of that now more than I was before.
Well, time means something. I don't want to waste my time. That's why I moved to Palm Springs. I moved to Palm Springs 6 months ago. I live here now.
Okay.
It's beautiful. It's like Hollywood was in the 70s. I can get to LA.
Yeah.
If I leave at night, I can get there in an hour and 45 minutes. It takes me an hour and 25 minutes to get back to my house in Santa Monica, from a commercial audition. So,
exactly.
I have places to stay. I have two very great friends. My friend Kareem Ferguson is really talented. He has a house in the Leimert Park area. My friend Alexander Paul has a place in the Malibu Santa Monica area. So I have two places to stay, and then other people in Hollywood and stuff. Those are two of my dear friends. Yeah. And I stay, and I get to see them. I wasn't getting to see anybody anymore. People didn't want to drive from Eagle Rock. People didn't want to drive over from the Valley. It's really awful now to live in LA. It's, and now, most of the auditions are done on tape.
They are done on tape. It's kind of crazy. I live in Inglewood, so I know Leimert Park's right by me. So I live.
Yeah, but when I drive from his house just to go into Hollywood, it takes me literally 40 minutes.
I know.
Another hour you can be in Palm Springs.
Well, another hour you can be in Vegas. It's crazy. I mean, it's kind of crazy here. I mean, right now.
Now we sound like old people. Oh God!
I know. Back in the day when I'm already there.
Very funny in this interview, God. I just think I haven't been very
funny. Oh, yeah. Well, I want to thank you for your time, Jason Stuart. This was a pleasure. So thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
And I want to say to you that it's really important to me that other gay men interview me, because you're my brothers and you're my first audience. You are me and I am you. And that means more to me than anything. It really does. Not that I don't love all the other people, but this has a special place, as it does for other Jewish people or other, they all have different reasons and different places in my heart. But this means to me a lot, because I think that we have to support one another. Somebody asked me for a quote for something recently for this gay pride thing I'm doing online. And I said, I am out for you. I'm not just out for myself. I am out for you and you are out for me. And I think that's what I said. And that's the truth. We do not live in a world that is just about us.
We don't. It's very true. We have to be, we're all the same community.
I wish I said it more succinctly.
Yeah. That's fine. I was like, now you sound like an old person too. Stop it. You're fine. It sounded good. Not good. Jason Stuart, you guys, shut up. He's talking. No, shut up. I'm talking is his book. You can get him. Shut the book again. Shut up. I'm talking. Yeah. And that is a great title. I just love that title. And I'm James Lott Jr. You can follow me. We're all James Lott Jr. are sold at James Lott Jr. and all social media platforms. And then, of course, this is on YouTube on my channel, JLJ Media. And the audio version's on every streaming service in the world. You just forgot me, from iHeartRadio to Spotify. Just find under there. You'll see his name will be on the title, and you'll see it. Share it with people you think need to hear this and see this. And everybody, please stay safe and sane during this kind of strange time period.